first thing they get is a big hug and welcome to our family. Because that's really what it is. I mean, it's a journey. It's 50-50. It's not me. You know, it's 50 me, but it's 50 my patient. And I hate to say patient.
No.
You know,
yeah,
and
I mean,
they're my
really
people.
They are your people. And with something like the flow.
So yeah, it was just a regular job interview that I saw an ad in the paper. It was really simple. It said nothing about hearing, nothing hearing related or job specific. It just said part-time office assistant needed, servant spirit required. And that's what caught my eye, servant spirit, because all my years past has always been a servant type of position that I've done in the community. So I went to that interview and I sat with that gentleman and did nothing besides talk about my kids. I was so proud to be a mom, and I talked about my kids the entire time. It was a great conversation. I was so proud. I was just talking and talking about my boys, and it was a great conversation. And we ended, and I went home, and my husband was sitting there waiting to find out how it went. And said, well, Jamie, what are you going to be doing? Then it hit me, I don't know. Well, what hours would you be working? And it hit me again, I don't know. Then it sunk in that that was it. I blew it. I'm done. That position is not going to be anything for me. So I sat for about a week and a half and I heard nothing and I didn't dare call. And probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks later, the gentleman called my home and said he and his wife had prayed about it and they decided that they really wanted me to be their girl. Excellent. Perfect. I was so excited. I can't believe I got that position. So very excited. Went back there. Learned then, my first day on the job, that it was hearing related, hearing aid related, anything to do with hearing. I didn't know that the first time that I sat with that gentleman. And the lady that was working in the front office with me ended up leaving about a week later. And so here's Jamie in a completely new field. I've never worked in an office, and I was scared out of my britches. I started crying, and I said, I promise I will do the best job I can. I don't know right yet, but I'm going to be here. So I held true to that and continued working through the office and learning the ropes. And we had 3 offices at that time, and the original provider was working in a satellite office, so I was in the Jamestown location manning the front office, and this is where it gets good. This is where it happened. Well, I had my sweet little Marjorie who come in, sweet little old lady who was all alone, in a wheelchair, blind, and those hearing aids quit working. She came in a tizzy and was very upset and was just begging for any kind of help. I didn't know what I was doing. I just cleaned it up a little bit for her. I was trying to do anything I could to help her out. And lo and behold, I got that hearing aid working. It was making sound. She put it in her ear, and she couldn't see me, so she put her hands on my face, and she kept telling me, you're my angel. You have no idea. Thank you so much. You're such an angel. And after she left with her family, that's where I sat there like, wow, what did I just do? So when Peter came in the next day, that's when I said, I want to know this. I want to just shift the whole EMT field and go right into helping these people. And that's where it started. So I started obtaining my training license back in 2011. I took a really long time to do it. I won't fib. I was very nervous about the sales of the field. Right. I knew that you needed to sell hearing aids at the end of the day. Never wanted to be in a sales position and didn't really want to pursue that. I just wanted to help and do the job and help people.
Sure.
So
well, I mean, that's why you get into the EMT. I mean, at the root of that is I'm helping people through a very stressful period.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's the same application of that.
Yeah. Different route, but exactly the same thing. So I went through that, and my mentor told me, you know, you need to just get over yourself and just do the job. Right. The job isn't selling hearing aids. The job is just taking really good care of people. Yeah. At the end of the day, you do that, the other comes. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, it's no different.
I mean, that is the one thing, you know, everybody in this field, you know, somebody's going to be selling a hearing aid. At the end of the day, though, I worry most about the aftercare. The aftercare is where I focus. You know, it's one thing to close, and I dislike that term, closing. I've asked the president of our company before, when you hear the word close, does that feel like it's done now? You know, is that the beginning or the end? That is certainly the beginning. Yeah. Now you closed, and you're going to be taking care of that person for life. Yeah. One thing that we offer here as part of our thing is lifetime service. That never expires.
Oh, you do?
Lifetime service. And that's where we can set ourselves apart.
Well, that's a big deal.
If somebody cannot make it into the office due to a ride or age or illness, you know, we'll go there. You know, we'll take them there. We'll teach the family so the family can go there and teach. It's all about education, you know, taking care of the person, making sure that after that investment has been made, we're not forgotten. You know, well, those hearing aids never end up in a drawer.
Right.
And you know exactly what you purchased.
My grandfather had hearing aids, like many people do when they get, he was 68 when he first got it. He worked in a factory, so at Westinghouse. And he fought it because it didn't work right for him. And the people that he went to weren't doing what you do. They weren't taking care of him.
Exactly.
And he had nothing but problems. In the end, he never wore it.
Yeah.
And you don't want that.
That is one of the most heartbreaking things to hear, is that they're in the drawer.
Yeah.
You know, hearing aids should never be in. You know, so time goes by. You know, the previous owner had retired. Jamie merged with Belsono, and we're now a big, huge company and helping just tons of people. So.
But you still run. I mean, this is like this beautiful small.
Individual.
Like, you know, I mean, it's about
absolutely,
service,
absolutely.
You know?
That is the one thing I probably can. Any person who works with me can vouch for that. Is they walk out with a hug, they walk out with a welcome to our family.
That's awesome.
Because it's lifetime. You know, I don't expire my service. We'll take care of you forever. Going back to the bigger picture too, when having consultations with my people, a lot of what I focus on is what I cannot help. And of course, we want to glorify where we can help, but I just can't stop but going back to where I cannot help. And that is the processing of what we do here. You know, feeding the brain. Hearing aids do so much more than just help you hear. They really help your brain remember the sounds you cannot hear without them. And, you know, in a nutshell, in order to understand it right, you need to hear it right. If you have untreated hearing loss and X amount of time goes by and you're not understanding right because you can't hear it right, there is a significant increase to the likeliness that cognitive decline will develop. Early Alzheimer's will develop. Unfortunately,
is it like you know, like a crescendo exponential effect on the brain's processing centers?
Absolutely.
Being so overloaded for so many years and just almost thrown in the towel.
Right? Exactly.
Just being like, look, this hasn't worked. It's not working.
The brain, where we do all our processing and all of our understanding, once that sound is received into there, it's just like any other organ in your body. You know, you have your arm in a cast. And you have that arm in the cast for so long, once that cast comes off, that arm isn't going to just throw a strong right hook. You know, it's going to forget. And you have to retrain that. And essentially, that's exactly what we're doing with our brains. We end up taking that cast off, we end up putting those hearing aids in, and now the brain is hearing those sounds that it hadn't heard in so long. And you end up retraining that brain to hear and understand better. And this is exactly why sounds and speech become more difficult to understand and process when hearing loss is left untreated.
And it's integral to the process to nip it.
Exactly, exactly.
And is it like a process that if I come to it late, like I am, it's just more time's going to be required to not fix it, but to correcting everything.
Right. It's going to take a little longer. You know, you have your arm in a cast longer, it's going to take longer to bounce right back.
Sure. I mean, I have like all these coping mechanisms now, you know, and they're not even quirks, they're just daily habits that make my life easier.
Right.
You know, you'll appreciate the fact that I never leave them where plugs are somewhere, but I carry 2 sets of plugs.
That is wonderful.
At all times.
Keep doing that.
Yeah, you know, and you know, it's a loud world we live in. Mm-hmm. So, now as far as your hearing aids, and let's talk about treatment. So what's the first step? Is it an analysis of the patient?
Of course, the absolutely first thing is ruling out that it is, you know, a particular type of loss and that hearing aids are the best avenue. Most of our patients here have a sensory neural hearing loss, which is a fancy word of saying nerve deafness. There is no other help for nerve deafness besides a hearing aid. So step number one is always establishing, you know, the degree of the hearing loss, the type of hearing loss, putting together a baseline of if said person decides to address their hearing loss, how well do we expect that they're going to hear and understand. And that's one of the parts of our test, is giving that person a nice comfortable volume in a very sound environment and just asking them to discriminate random words to us. That way we get that baseline of how well are they going to understand once they do hear. Hearing and understanding are completely different things. Hearing aids will not help your brain understand what it hears. It simply brings the sound up to that brain. So we establish using a three-part test. We'll do our air conduction with the headphones. We'll do our speech discrimination using amplification and strategic words. And then we end doing a bone conduction, which is very simply finding out what type of hearing loss is that. And one thing I always do is they all get a chance to put those hearing aids right in their ears, wear them sometimes out of the office, and see what it's like out there before any decisions are made. That's a big part of the demonstration, is allowing that person to really just get them in their ears and see what we've been missing. And that's a big eye-opener for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, and it tails right into the story, you know, the inception of all this, and it was your catalyst, you know, with a woman. It was just changed you, it changed your life, it changed the direction of your life. And you saw the effect that the poor woman couldn't even see. So,
yes.
I mean, to take both
and actually, you know, going back, I mean, I've helped hundreds of people. I'm very blessed to say that. And, you know, there's always a few that really stick out to you. And one of the biggest ones was my 96-year-old sweetheart who decided at 96 years old, now I'm going to address my hearing loss. And it was quite the ordeal. We clicked them on, and it was overwhelming. Wow. She had not heard in so long. We had to immediately turn them down. She was almost on the floor, crying and shaking, and family was there saying, oh, just forget it. Forget it, she cannot handle it. But she herself kept saying, no, you know, I want to hear. Wow. So what do? Well, we turn them way, way, way down. I went to that lady's house once a month for a long time and just continued to turn them up and turn them up and turn them up little by little by little until she was able to just tolerate that volume.
Because she was used to a world of silence.
Yeah.
And I know my own, I have hypersensitive hearing even before my damage. And, you know, that's, you have to acclimate if you're living in a different space.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many daily sounds. You know, you might forget that the sound of a tissue. When you go to blow your nose,
yeah,
you know,
a lot
it makes
of that's
sound.
gone for me. You know what I mean?
Sound.
Like a lot of that small
wind.
Like, yeah.
You know, of course, the birds. Birds are usually one of the biggest ones. Is, oh my goodness, there's the birds. You know, hearing our animals run across the floor. You know, we hadn't heard that. You know, all of these little daily sounds. That's a big thing that I do. I consult with my patients is to wear them when you're home. That's a big kickback I get is, I don't see any reason to wear them when I'm just home. There's nobody to talk to. But there is sound.
It's the world.
There is sound all around us.
Sure.
All the time.
That's our immersive 3D experience in this planet, is like we're this tactile, you know, auditory, visual experience that we have. And if you lose one of those, it takes a good portion of that away. And if you can give that back to a degree, that's a big, big deal.
It is a big deal.
But I think as somebody who has hearing loss, you acclimate in an odd way, and you, not that you forget, but you almost mentally block it as well. Like, correct. I don't want to know that I can't hear that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I just don't want to deal with that, because that was the hardest thing for me.
Or it's because of, well, it's really this, you know, or I think there's something in my ear, or heaven forbid it's just wax, you know.
Right.
You know, there are reasons, and it's just embrace it. Right. We all need to embrace it, because the generations that we're seeing of damaging our hearing is younger and younger.
It's crazy to me.
And younger.
As somebody who protected my hearing from the time I was 12 on, to see kids intentionally they're not doing it intentionally, they don't know they're doing it, but they don't realize the damage that they're doing.
And it creeps up on you.
Yeah.
Especially when it's just a sensory neural loss and it just trickles away little by little. You don't realize that. You don't realize that.
Waterboard, you don't know it, and then all of a sudden, because people need to see that these aren't the hearing aids your grandpa wore.
Right.
These are like hyper modern, beautiful,
Bluetooth,
spelt. You don't even know they're
direct stream. I mean, it's, you want to watch TV, press the button. Your TV could be on 0, and you'll still hear everything at your own surround sound quality.
Right.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and like my.
Just the service. That hearing aids don't have to be taboo. They don't have to end up in the drawer. It's very, very important to find that provider.
Right.
and stick with them and trust them and build that relationship, and we'll take care of you.
Because it's about that
forever.
in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, this is.
In my office, I tell everybody, nobody just buys a hearing aid. You really make that investment in your hearing. That's my reputation. You're investing in me as well, and I'm going to show you. I've been in the office. Well, I've been in the industry 10 years. I took over the practice a couple years ago, so solely in this particular office, we're going on 3 years here.
Oh, that's nice. So, but I mean, you've got 10 years under your belt.
Yes.
So you're on your decade. And the business had been around longer than that because you came into this.
Business is close to 50 years with Valu Hearing, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's been in Westfield for?
The original location was out in Boston, New York.
Oh, that's right.
We grew to Jamestown and Westfield. Being a hometown girl of Jamestown, that tends to be the larger office, but we keep them all going.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that was important to note too.